Good morning. So this is for my 8th and ninth grade class. You guys are reading a book called Keeping Score, which is by Linda Sue Parks. She wrote A Single Shard that we read a couple years ago. So her book touches on the Korean War, but the book is not about the Korean War. It's about Maggie. But it does summarize the Korean War quite well. And if you like baseball, she is a baseball fan. So she learns how to keep score, and that really gives her some hope. Her name is Maggie Fortini, and she follows the Brooklyn Dodgers. And after her new friend, who's a fireman named Jim, teaches her how to keep score, she feels like she's an even better fan. And he goes off to fight in the Korean War. And she sends him letters, and then she stops hearing from him. And I'm not going to go any farther, but this is a deeper book than what we've been reading. And I want you to kind of pay attention to the themes of hope and reality. The setting is from 1951 to 1955, and it's Brooklyn. She's loves the Brooklyn Dodgers, and that's in New York City. And you'll find out she's a round character, and so is Jim, and then her mom. So I'm introducing that to introduce you to your writing assignment for this week, because it's entitled Righteousness versus Law, or Righteousness and Law. Now, righteousness we've talked about, that just means right living in the context of the Bible. So one of the ongoing struggles we find throughout American history has been between people who hold tightly to our country's feeling of liberty and equality that you hear in the Pledge of Allegiance and the opening lines of the Declaration of Independence, and then contrast that to the harsh realities of human depravity. The realization that there is starvation in the world, and terrorism, and global pandemics, which we're going through right now. So there's kind of a big contrast there. In the past, we can see struggles for, justice in unjust times. The Civil War, there was a struggle. Our country's involvement in World War I and World War II. The battle over the 19th Amendment, that was prohibition. We've studied that. Racial discrimination, a civil rights movement, the Vietnam conflict, the current battle over abortion, and these other debates that are going on, gun laws or the lack thereof, gun rights, religious freedom, and right now even we see in the news coronavirus and the stay-at-home order, and people are out in the streets protesting the stay-at-home orders. So you've got all these things going on, and you have feelings about them, of course, and we're going to try to address those. That's what we're trying to do with this paper this week. So Americans believe in freedom for ourselves and for other people. On the other hand, we believe in justice. So we have a hard time standing by when slaves are being tortured in the Civil War, or Jews are being massacred in World War II, the Kurds being bombed by their own government, Muslims and Croats abused by the Serbs in Bosnia, 40 million babies being aborted. So there are lots of controversial subjects and topics that you will have to kind of decide where your stance is on those topics. So your assignment is going to be a difficult one, because it asks you to begin to form your view of the relationship between government and right living or righteousness. So it's your personal holiness or personal value versus what the law says, and sometimes they don't coincide. The fact is, slavery's been around for millennia before the Civil War was ever fought, and it took over 2 years before Abraham Lincoln could even bring himself to say that the Civil War had anything to do about slavery. So we know that there are more slaves worldwide today than there were then. There could be the child slave trade, sex market. It could be slaves basically in sweatshops being paid pennies for hours of work. So just so that we can have cheap clothes, cheap shoes. There were many signs that one of Hitler's primary goals was to wipe out the Jews, yet the United States did not enter World War II until Japan bombed us at Pearl Harbor. So, where was our justice then? Abortion is still going on today in the United States under protection of law. Our tax dollars go toward that. 60,000 babies aborted in our country alone. So there are lots of things that you can choose to write about, things that you feel strongly about. So how do you respond to these things? What do you want to say? If you have a well-reasoned statement you'd like to make it. If you simply want to write some of your thoughts on paper and outline some of the issues as you see them, you can do that. If you can do nothing more than just cry about the awfulness of the world in its present condition, then you can cry out to God, write a prayer or a letter to Him. It doesn't matter what you write specifically, just write about a subject that is important to you. So that is your assignment. Bible in Revelation 3:15 and 16 says, I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were either one or the other. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. So Christ is warning the church that He wants you to have an opinion, a biblical opinion. So as you become more and more aware of the world, you kind of need to not shy away from tough issues, but kind of stand up to them. And yes, these issues are uncomfortable. They cause you to think. They cause you to think deeply about what you believe. And that is what this assignment is kind of getting you started to do. Christ calls us to follow Him with a passion, to wake up, to act. Lukewarm water isn't good for much. Both hot and cold water are useful. By the same token, these issues may not be either hot or cold. They might not have a clear right or wrong answer. So when you wrestle with these issues and you don't come up with a definite answer, that's okay. At least you're awake, or I think you woke. I think that's the new term nowadays. So it means that you have wrestled with the idea, you care about it. This process is kind of going to mold you into the person that Christ wants you to be. So you're learning to have a passion for the world, and Christ loves the world, and He loves those who are in it, whether they already know Him or the ones that don't know Him. So wake up and wrestle with something this week. Thanks.